What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Drive Talk Cars. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how to install the dash cam that I reviewed in the previous video. If you haven't seen that, the link will be down in the description below. But anyway, we're going to be installing the Viofo T130 3-channel camera in the Maserati. Alright, so one thing that you're going to have to do when you're using the Hardwire Kit is you're going to have to find your fuse box. Now every car is going to be different locations, but ideally there's one in the inside of the car, either in the cabin or in the trunk, as it is for the Maserati is in the trunk, or in the engine bay. So we're going to access the one that's in the trunk and identify what fuse we can tap into. So once you find your fuse box, you want to take the lid off to expose the fuse. So if you never had to access your fuse box, you may not know that there is a kind of a ledger or a map underneath the lid of all fuse boxes that identify each fuse. It has the number, and then you're going to need your owner's manual to identify what those numbers mean, because each fuse goes to a particular component of your car. So you're going to need to know which one to tap into, which one not to tap into. If you don't have your owner's manual available, you can't get it online. Just Google it and see if you can find it. Now that we know our fuse box, we can go ahead and get our Hardwire Kit. And with that, we want to find two types of fuses. So if you notice here, we have a red wire, which is for the battery, and we have one that's labeled ACC. And then we have our ground. So the one labeled battery is going to be the one that needs a active or continuous power supply. This needs to be plugged into something that is always on the battery. The one that has ACC is your accessories. We need this one to be plugged into one that only comes on when the ignition switch is turned. And then of course you want to ground it to something like a screw or something that doesn't have any paint or not attached to any plastic. Ideally, it's connected to the frame of the car, and then that's it. Alright, so when you are looking for what fuse to tap into, you want to make sure you don't tap into anything that pertains to like safety features, such as airbags or stabilization systems or anything like that. You want to tap more into the sunroof, maybe even the headlighter lights or cigarette lighter. I don't know if that always stays on, but you want to tap into something that's not pertaining to safety features. One tool you're going to need here is a circuit tester. The circuit tester is going to identify if there is an active current going to the fuse or not. Now, right now I have the car off because I want to identify what fuse stays on even when the car is off. If you're not familiar with this tool, you have the tester pin thing here. It has a light bulb in it. It lights up when it makes a circuit, a closed circuit, and then you have your clamp that you can put to a negative ground area. So I'm putting it on metal bracket that's attached to the car, to the frame of the car, so that you ground it, and then we have our probe. So this is almost like a pick or something like a screwdriver, and then on the fuse you have little tabs that you can touch the tip with, and that will allow for you to see it light up or not. So I've gone through and I've identified some things that I want to tap into. So one is going to be the radio, and then the other one is going to be the rear sunroof. So the radio should stay on or be connected all the time, even when the car is off. Alright, so we're going to go for this one here. This is 37, where the radio should be. So you see these little tabs here? I'll show you on this one, it's a little easier. You can touch this with the tip, and that way you can see if it works or not. So we go in here and we tap that section. So you see it lights up. We have connection. Both sides need to light up. If one side lights up and the other one doesn't, you have a bad fuse. If neither one lights up, then that just means that it is not a continuous power supply, and it needs the ignition switch to be turned on in order for it to work. Now that we've discovered where we want to tap into it, you want to make sure that you have what is called a add a circuit or add a fuse connection. In this case, you're going to need two of them. You're going to need one for the constant power wire and one for the switch power. So with these cables, there's a few things you want to know before you start messing around with them. One is they come in different sizes, so you need to identify what fuse size you're going to be replacing. So for me, I'm going to be using the mini size. So one thing you want to note is that there's what is called a low side and a draw side. You want to make sure that this side goes in correctly onto your fuse box. Another thing is where you place your old and new fuses. The new one goes at the top and the old one goes at the bottom. And another thing to be mindful of is if you use a slot that already has a fuse, then you put a fuse in. If you use a slot that doesn't have a fuse already in it, then you leave this bottom one empty. And then you connect this to the existing wires, clamp it down, and you're good to go. So you can see here I'm using the mini. I'm going to use this here. So I'm going to check these slots here, the empty ones. That way you don't have to remove anything or tap off anything else. But sometimes these slots are not live or active or wired up. So you can test that with your circuit tester if it fits down in there. Another thing that I've seen is that people split a fuse in half and put one side on there, see if it lights up, and then put it on the other side. Whatever side lights up is your load side. So as you can see, this is the same size as that. So that's why I'm using this. Alright, so as you can see here, I'm pushing down on these pins and the light's not coming on. So what that indicates to me is that this is a switched fuse. So let me switch on the car and you will see it light up. Alright, now we go back to that same one with the car on, and now it lights up. So this one I can use as a switched fuse. Alright, so as you can see, the old one goes down there. Here's the new fuse, and that goes up top here, right up there. So we have the original fuse down at the bottom and the new fuse up at the top. Alright, as you can see, we have both of the taps in the circuit box now. So we have this one here, that was an empty slot, so it's only has one fuse. Then we have this fuse back here. That one has the switched fuse. This one is always active. So if you can use an empty slot, that's always great. If not, then you just have to take the old one out, like I said before, put it in, put the new one in. So to test to make sure that you have connectivity, you can use your circuit tester once again, put it in the end of the wire, and your light should come on. Of course, that is the active one you want to try, because the switch one will not work unless you have the switch on. Alright, so at this point, we can go ahead and take the cables out and start mapping out how we want to run these. Now you should have more than enough with this cable here. This goes from the front to the rear cable. That looks like more than enough. Now the one from the Hardwire may present a issue, especially if your fuse box is in the trunk, but once again, this may still be long enough. It still looks pretty long. You just have to figure out how you want to route it through the car. This is going to vary per car, so I won't show too much in detail of me actually wiring it, because like I say, you may have a totally different scenario to what I have, especially if your fuse box is in the front. Alright, so as you can see, these cables, they stop right here. The way that I routed it, it was only long enough to get to right here. So I need to get it from there all the way to here. So what I had to do was get some more of this 20 gauge stranded wire so I can run it from there to here. So I got some wire off of Amazon. Wasn't that much, maybe 15, 16 bucks, but I have 6 different colors. So since I have yellow and red, I'm going to use the yellow and red there. I got the same gauge, which is I think it's called gauge, but I got the same size, 20 AWG, and I got 10 feet. Definitely don't need 10 feet, but I just want to have more than not. So if you run into a situation where you don't have enough wire from the factory harness and you need to extend it, you just go on Amazon, get you some extra wire. You should be good. Another thing that I purchased were some solder sealed wire connectors. And I bought the kit. It comes in a variety of different sizes. The ones I'm going to use is this here, but like I said, it comes in different sizes. The beauty of these is that you don't have to crimp the wire and you don't have to use any type of soldering machine. All you need is a heat gun and you use that and you're good to go. Now this is optional. You can obviously use traditional wire connectors, the clamp ones, or whatever you want to use. Alright, so I put the connector on, and then you line up, there's a solder piece right here. So you put that over the connected wires, and then this is where you want to heat the whole thing. This will melt, and then this solder will heat up and it'll fuse to the wires. And that gives you your connection. All right, so now you can see that it is together. Pull on it, it's not going anywhere. I can heat this up some more to where it melts more and fuses more of the wires together. There we go. All right, look good. All right, so the next thing to do is connect it to your fuse tap here. Remember, you want to make sure you are plugging it into the right tap, because one has to be the active, one is on the switch. All right, I found a bolt back there, right there. And that's where I'm gonna put my ground cable right here. This is important to have a good connection, because if you don't, you may not get the power to your dash cam. All right, guys, as you can see, I have my 3 cables coming out right there. And then I insulate it with some insulation tape. It's running there, and then it's going into the fuse box. In my opinion, very professional job. Can't even tell that it's there. All right, so we're gonna install our dash cam. First thing that I'm gonna look at is, where do I want to install my dash cam? Ideally, I want it to be tucked away high and behind the rearview mirror. However, that may not be a possibility. The reason being is that we have the internal camera, the one that shoots into the inside of the vehicle. So if you were to put it up high like this, which where I would ideally want it to be, you may run the risk of it being, of this camera, the inside camera, being blocked by the rearview mirror. Unless you're gonna just have it out the side and it's not gonna be facing on anything inside of the cabin, which if you're an Uber driver, I can see that being a problem, or you know, the Lyft or Uber type of drivers. But maybe if you're just by yourself, typically when you drive, you don't really need nothing to be in the inside. You can have it facing out that way and you'll get any type of action that happens over there. So that's just something to keep in mind. So now what we're gonna do is put the dash cam on the windshield. Before doing that, I cut out a piece of the static sticker. Put this first, and then you put the dash cam on top of the static. That way you can easily remove it and put it back on if you need to. So what we're gonna do, peel this off, the adhesive, and then put it onto the static sticker like that, and then we're good to go. All right, so we have the static paper stuck to the adhesive here, and then this white backing comes off, and then it's just clear. If you can see that. See, it'll be clear, and then you just stick it onto the window. All right, so we're gonna put this like this on the window. I'm putting it up high. I don't really care about the mirror blocking this camera right here, but in my trial run, it did not block it. So all I'm trying to do now is just make sure that it's straight and pretty even. So one thing to remember when you are putting the rear view camera in the back there, you want to make sure, if you do have a car that has a rear shade, that you put it up to make sure that it doesn't hit the camera. So this shade will actually come in front of the camera. So I do have space to put this on the inside of the shade. So I should be good with the rear view camera. So for the rear view camera, I'm putting it right in the middle here, and that should work perfectly for me. So using the static sticker, I am putting the camera on the sticker and then putting the sticker on the window. That way, I don't have to worry about the adhesive being left on the tint, or if you don't have tint, the window, and it's easily removable and you can put it back. So with that on there, I can now turn the camera out the window. And I have my output for my video cable coming this way, because I'm going to run it around this way since I ran the other one around here. So one side has a straight and one has an angled connection. I'm not sure if it matters which one, but I think I'm going to use the straight one.